Thank you for listening to Shulchanaruchharav.com.
With which hand should the tefillin be removed? Now, although obviously the arm tefillin must be removed using the arm that doesn't contain the tefillin due to technical reasons, so if you're a righty and put on your tefillin on your left arm, you use your right arm to remove your arm tefillin. And if you're a lefty and put your tefillin on your right arm, you use your left arm to remove the hand tefillin, the arm tefillin. The question is asked regarding the tefillin shel rosh. I have two hands available, the right and the left, especially based on the custom to unstrap the hand straps prior to removing the shel rosh. And which one should I use? The right or the left, or does it make no difference? You get to choose. So in general, we know, as it's recorded in Shulchanaruch in chapter 2, the Alter Rebbe in the Madura Kabbah 2, halacha 3-6, and the Basra 2-4, that one is always to precede his right arm, right hand, whenever he comes to do an action of respect, or especially a mitzvah, as the Torah gives precedence to the right, as well as the right al pi Kabbalah contains chesed, and therefore should always be preceded over the left. Now, being that removing the tefillin from the body, although it seems to us as if we're doing the opposite of a mitzvah, as we're taking off the mitzvah, in truth there's mitzvahs involved as well in removing the tefillin, as is apparent from the ruling in Shulchan Aruch in chapter 28, halacha 3 in the Alter Rebbe, regarding the different orders and halachas involved in removing it, which is learned from the pasuk. And we have an entire chapter in Shulchan Aruch, chapter 29, dedicated to explaining why you don't say a blessing when you remove the tefillin. Unlike the custom of Bnei Marava, who would actually say a bracha of Asher Kedishana when removing the tefillin. So being that you should always precede your right hand, and there's a mitzvah involved in even removing the tefillin, we should conclude that you should use your right hand to remove the tefillin from your head, and not the hand which contains the tefillin wrapped on it. However, it is recorded in the Magen Avram, in chapter 28, and brought in the Alter Rebbe Shulchan Aruch 28 halacha 5, that some of the sages were accustomed to specifically use their left hand to remove the tefillin. Who are these sages? The Marash of Lublin, who was the Rebbe, the teacher of the Shloah Kodesh, as recorded in Emek HaBracha chapter 2 halacha 15, and in the Shloah Meseches Chulin. What's the reason that they would use their left hand to remove the shel rosh, as opposed to the general rule of always preceding the right? So the reason recorded in the Shloah, the Magen Avram and Alter Rebbe, is that the left hand is the weaker hand, and by using it one shows that it's emotionally difficult for him to remove the tefillin. As in truth, the mitzvah of tefillin applies throughout the entire day. That's how it was originally. When people had the proper kedusha, all Yidden would wear tefillin from morning to evening, not just for davening. Today, that we aren't able to have and guard clean bodies throughout the entire day, we are all accustomed to remove it immediately after davening. But nonetheless, to emphasize that we don't really want to remove it, and we really do want to stay with the tefillin if we were able to, we therefore use our weaker hand, the left hand, to remove it. This was the reason behind these chachamim. Now, how do we paskin? The lashon there is, Yeshma chachamim shayanoigim, but who says this has to be my minhag? Practically, however, this is the custom to use the left hand to remove the shel rosh, as rule all the achreinim, the Seilas Blula, the Chidon Machzike Bracha, the Shalmei Tzibur, Chol Avram, the Chesed La'alafim, the Kaf HaChaim, the Kitz Shulchan Aruch, the Ben Ish Chai, the Mishnah Berurah, the Kaf HaChaim, Rav Yaakov Sefer. And this is the practical ruling that everyone should use their left hand to remove the head tefillin for the above reason. Now what about lefties? Which hand should they use to remove their tefillin? Their head tefillin. So based on the reason that we just explained, for why the left hand should be used, being that it's the weaker hand of a righty, it would be ruled that by a lefty who puts his tefillin on his right arm is to remove his head tefillin with his right hand, as that is his weaker hand for the lefty. And indeed, so ruled the Pri Megadim in chapter 28, in Eish Avram 3, in the Machzis HaShekel, the Mishnah Berurah, the Kaf HaChaim, and other achrein. So the bottom line rule is that always remove the tefillin with the weaker hand, whichever one it is. If you're a righty, then you remove it with your left hand. If you're a lefty, you move with your right hand. Now what do we do by the confusing case of those who are double-handed, otherwise known as cross-dominance or mixed-handed? So once again, here too, the Pri Megadim writes that one should follow his weaker hand. This comes really out to play in the case where we have someone who writes with one hand but does all his actions with another hand. In which case, irrelevant of how you rule regarding which hand he should put his tefillin on, which, by the way, is the final ruling that it's put on the hand that one does not write with, nonetheless, to remove the head tefillin, you would always use your weaker hand. So, for example, although in general a lefty who wears his tefillin on his right arm is to use his right hand, which is his weaker hand, to remove the head tefillin, if in truth his weaker arm is his left arm, and he just happens to put the tefillin on his right arm due to that he writes with his left hand, then he is to remove his tefillin using his left non-tefillin hand, just as is done by a righty. Likewise in the opposite case, although in general a righty who wears his tefillin on his left arm is to use his left hand, which is his weaker hand, to remove the head tefillin, nevertheless, if in truth his weaker arm is his right arm, and he just happens to put the tefillin on his left arm due to that he writes with his right hand, then he is to remove his tefillin using his right non-tefillin hand, just like a lefty. To keep it super simple, always use your weaker hand to remove your head tefillin, irrelevant of which arm you wrap the tefillin onto. So conclude the Paiskin, the Pri Megadim, the Machzis HaShekel, the Mishnah Brura, and the Kaf HaChaim.
Thank you for listening to Shulchanaruchharav.com. Our free services of making Torah knowledge available to the public depends on donors like you. Please help us continue our work through making even a small contribution at Shulchanaruchharav.com under the Daily Halacha Dedication section or in the subscription page. Also, check out our online courses and many sefarim available for purchase that will both enhance your Torah knowledge and help support our work.